r/AskReddit. What screams I'm upper class? Sitting on your boat on a Tuesday in water, of course. Sitting on your boat in the driveway on a Tuesday is middle class. And sitting on a non-seaworthy boat in your lawn on a Tuesday is redneck. Pulling up perfectly beautiful $100,000 floors to put in different $100,000 floors. I worked for folks who did this. Once pulled $80,000 worth of cabinets out of a billionaire's house that had been installed 3 years earlier. Dude just wanted to make a change. Calling your yard the grounds, and your dogs, the hounds, and your doorbell, the sounds, and your wife's boobies, the mounds, and your cocaine stash, the pounds, and calling a game of golf the rounds, and calling the ends of your lawn the bounds. Neighbors on my street spent $5 on a townhouse. Then they gutted it and rebuilt it completely, putting in another $5. A good amount went into digging down the backyard a couple of stories and craning in mature trees over the house. Congrats. They now have a $6 house that cost them $10 and 100 pissed off neighbors that had to live here during the construction. Hosting parties every night all summer in your house while you spy on the married woman across the river that used to love you. Waiting to meet someone at those parties who knows the married woman so that you can be reintroduced and fall in love again and regain what was lost. Using old sport every other sentence. Driving a yellow sedan. Dying in your swimming pool. Being offhand about things that are very expensive for the plebeians. I've found that many rich people are less obnoxious about showing off wealth than are people who are almost rich that feel they have to match up to people who make more than they do. Honestly, Michael, it's only one banana. How much could it be? $5, $10. You've never been to a grocery store, have you, mother? Here's $20. Go see a Star War. Using summer as a verb, especially with the prepositional phrase in the Hamptons. Where do you summer? Rich lady, come Tuesday I will be summering on my yacht through the Moroccan islands. Me, that sounds nice. I wish I could do something like that, but you know, work. Rich lady, you really only have one life to live. Why don't you just take some time off? Me. Not actually flaunting your wealth is a huge sign. A lot of people try to look expensive, but people who are upper class often try to hide their wealth. This reminds me of a story my brother told me. He used to tend bar at a mid-tier country club. There were a combination of very wealthy and wealthy-ish members. Most members were driving $100K plus cars. One guy my brother knew was one of the wealthiest members, drove a mid-level Ford sedan that he bought used. One day my brother asked him why he doesn't drive a more expensive car like the other members. He responded with, the people who matter don't care and the people who care don't matter. That to me screams upper class. Being so wealthy it doesn't have the same meaning it does to normal folks. Edit. Until Dr. Seuss came up with that quote. Well played, rich man. Having a butler's pantry. You just have 2 kitchens. Admit you are rich. I bought a house 6 months ago that has an old oven. Maybe 70s or 80s. Hooked up to a gas line in our basement next to the clothes dryer. Does that mean I have 2 kitchens? Stop pretending not to be rich, you filthy rich scumbag, but hey, for real, want to hang out sometime? Going to USC without financial aid or scholarships. Bribes. Gotcha. Having a favorite restaurant in multiple countries. I started working for a very low-key millionaire a few years ago, and that was the biggest clue that we had very different lifestyles. When he started talking about spending a long weekend in France just to eat at a particular restaurant. We are in the Midwest US. My mind got blown a little bit. Living on an estate granted to your family by Queen Mary. My roommate is scared of his shadow cause this is the first time he's lived in a middle class situation. If the door is unlocked for more than walking in and out, he's under the assumption that someone's just gonna walk in and attack us. He also thought a fairly decent neighborhood was the ghetto once. When my mom got too ill to take care of my sister and I, we moved in with an aunt who lived in a nice upscale neighborhood. Not 1% type, but definitely top 25%. Some of my closest friends are from that neighborhood. After apartment hopping for nearly 15 years, I decided to buy a house in my childhood neighborhood. It's the definition of a working class suburb. Nothing dangerous about it. However, some of my friends refuse to visit because it's too ghetto. Dressing your 5-year-old in a Canadian Goose jacket. Chicago. We call those jackets please mug me coats. Also Chicago. For those Reading. He isn't joking, you will actually get robbed sometimes for wearing Canada Goose here. I've heard you will actually get robbed sometimes for just being in Chicago. That depends on which country you are from. In the UK, being upper class is not about money but having come from the right family. Yay. But I'm sure money helps. Just take a week off. European. Holy it, I'm currently working abroad for some time and I'm impressed at the amount of times Germans have told me to just take a week off. Like what the duck kind of human rights it is this? For me, Swiss, I'm always surprised to read about US laws 10 days of holiday per year, including sick days, or even less 60 hours working week. What the duck? I remember when I went to uni, I opted to stay in the most expensive halls. I was just young and stupid with money, so I ended up living with a bunch of affluent farmers and the like. As a city boy from a working class family, I was well out my depth, and some of the conversations I had went straight over my head. I remember one girl talking about how a private detective had followed her dad for a while. She said we could just about see his car at the bottom of the drive. I stopped her and said, "What do you mean you could barely see his car?" She explained it was a long driveway. The thought of having a driveway leading up to your house so long that you could barely see a car at the end of it just blew my tiny mind. Defining yourself as well off and upper middle class rather than saying you're rich and upper class. I used to think my family was upper middle class. Then I made rich friends in college who claimed they were upper middle class. And then when I worked at a major law firm, I worked with a bunch of people who made several $1,000,000 per year, but we were catering to billionaires. Then I went to law school at a prestigious university where I met the children of people worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and I got to see why middle class is such a widely used term. It's a sliding scale of perspective. I thought I was upper middle class because both of my parents worked for the government and we had a nice house, and my friend down the street had a smaller house with immigrant parents who didn't make very much money. Then I met people whose parents actually went to college and had white collar jobs, and I thought they were rich because they had all this extra spending money. Then I worked in a law firm with people who made lots of money, but who had to work non-stop all week. They were still working for their money. It was only until I went to law school and saw the lifestyles of people with generational wealth that I understood why a lawyer making $500K thinks they are middle class, because they work for a partner making $5 million. And together they work for clients making $500 million who run companies worth $50 billion. On the grand scheme of things, $500K is not enough to make you upper class. The thing is, most working class people don't realize just how different the lives of the truly rich actually are. Wearing tailor-fitted custom clothes. True wealth don't mess with labels and all the things lower class folks try to prove worth by wearing. Edit. Bespoke clothing was what I meant. I grew up attending private school in a developing country. Majority of my classmates were in the 1% of the country. These are some of my observations. Connections. You're visiting a foreign country? Friends' parents know the now ambassador to said country from back in the day. You arrive in the airport and you're picked up by a caravan of black Suburbans. You don't visit people's houses. You visit their estate. Fincus, where I'm from. You know that famous building Plaza National Park? Yeah, it's named after So-So's grandfather. Their family owns professional sports team, national newspaper, and national television channel. If you hate your job, just quit, go back to school, and become an engineer, doctor, lawyer. It's not that hard, jeez. My brother's friend stole his grandma's credit card and racked up $2,500 in charges on it towards various Xbox store at like Fortnite and Forza currency and a bunch of pre-orders on new games. I was like, wow. He must have gotten that Xbox taken away and was probably murdered shortly after. My brother told me all that they told the kid was, you should have just asked us. Upper class bullet. When you use a mini trash bag instead of just a grocery bag for your little bathroom garbage can. When someone gets guacamole on their Chipotle burrito without hesitation. Your roommates not understanding why one save leftovers. My parents both comes from homes where you don't waste anything. The grandparents lived on an island in the middle of the Baltic Sea during the rationing of World War II, and you couldn't just order more meat at a whim. But the mates complained about Tupperware cluttering the fridge. taking up place from cooling their waters and booze. Also not being able to get into their head that you could in fact be too low on cash not to be able to treat oneself with different actions or products. People here are confusing rich with upper class. Ducking like and subscribe.